I didn't think it would be this easy to make such a difficult decision, and now I can move on to the next part of the journey. Hello and welcome to the Infinite Inkwell, or welcome back to the Infinite Inkwell. I'm Lewis and I'm on a journey to discover new ways of telling stories. At the moment, I've been looking at how I can do that through a video game. Now, I have no technical skill. Before I started this project, never written a line of code, none of that. So this has been quite a steep learning curve, and it's going to continue to be. So right, let's get into it. In my last video, I built my first level in GameMaker, and I found myself getting incredibly frustrated. And you can find out why if you go and follow this link up here. It'll take you to the video and you can have a look and see what I did and where I found my struggles coming from. This week, I actually spent some time with Unreal Engine 5. Well, trying to learn Unreal Engine 5 anyway. My main focus here was looking at blueprints. So blueprints are these really cool elements that allow you to have flows for different parts of your character behavior and world behavior. Now, I thought this would be a huge step forward and something that would open up a lot of game development to me without doing a lot of the technical work. And I'll be honest, I was slightly apprehensive based on my experience with GameMaker. GameMaker had a similar visual work style, but it worked kind of differently to how Blueprint does. That was actually pretty interesting. I have to call out Ryan Laley and Cobra Code for their videos on Blueprint and actually building 2D games within Blueprint. Pretty kind of awesome. So thank you guys. Really actually helpful to understand not just the complexities of how you do it, but also the sheer Herculean effort that it is to build a 2D game in Unreal Engine, particularly since in 5 they removed the paper 2D element. So now you have to do a lot of stuff manually. There's no default template. And that adds a lot of effort to go in and start doing stuff. They've done an amazing job at making sure that knowledge is passed down, even though Unreal have hidden a lot of the stuff in the engine. You can find links for them down in the description. You'll notice that I've skipped straight on to talking about videos from creators on YouTube because Unreal's documentation was bad. I don't know how else to put it. It wasn't great. It knows it has functionality in there, but it doesn't do a good job of making that accessible unless you go through the community forums. And the community forums all have links to YouTube, a lot of the content that I ended up watching. So it wasn't that helpful. Now, I think had I been looking at 3D development, I'd have been probably okay. But because I was looking at the more niche 2D development, it made Unreal almost unusable. The documentation wasn't good enough, and the level of complexity required just to make a sprite move was insane. It was next level. The amount of effort that I would have had to go into for each individual tile, each element of my character, of other NPCs and enemies in parts of the world would have been ridiculous. So the things that I do like about Blueprint are actually pretty big, and it's the way that it deals with explaining how those elements work together. So in GameMaker you have your object and the events that are linked to it, and the events are just stacked. In Unreal Engine, everything has a flow, so you can see how things are impacting one another. You can see where there are branches and decision points within the code. Well, code, the visual style, and you can do stuff with that. That actually reads a lot better, even if it is using some technical language. And even then, I actually think it does a better job of being more accessible, even though it doesn't have those nice little drag and drop elements that we saw in GameMaker. Another thing that I thought was actually better in Unreal were the layers. So when you're looking at building your environment and having your player within your environment, the layers seem a lot clearer than GameMaker, and even to a degree Godot. That was actually something I did quite like about it. This is another thing that I found myself going, oh, I wish I could use Unreal for this. But there are some features in here which are incredible, but I don't have any use for them. And that was kind of the thing that made me go, maybe I don't need this. And then in some of the videos, there was a lot of talking about crashing and regular crashing, particularly for some of the paper 2D elements, which is going to be likely my entire game. That's a huge risk to have your machine constantly crash. And I don't think I want to take that risk. I've spent a good amount of time with Unreal Engine 5, given it's not been as long as I've spent with Godot or GameMaker, but I feel like I now understand enough about how it works and kind of some of the cool stuff that is in there, but also some of the drawbacks from the engine to know what I want to do next.
3 days later.
As you can probably tell, this is not a continuation of where the video has just been. This is actually a few days later. So I spent some time going through your guys' comments in the previous video and found that there were some things that I should probably look at for Unreal and test out first. And those things were, can I run it? And this was super interesting. So I found two things while trying to run Unreal Engine 5. One was how long it took to open, just to open Unreal and get to the selection screen for a blank project or a template. It took 20 minutes. And I thought, okay, maybe that was the initial loading screen. I get that, it's complex software. Then I opened a project. I started a new, not a blank one. I went and I selected a top-down one because I thought that's probably the closest thing I'm going to get to quite a basic 2D-esque, because a lot of the stuff I've looked at already has been top-down but 2D. So I thought, you know what, variation on the theme. Let's try that out. And opening a templated project also took about 20 minutes. And it had the same issues. So look at this. This is what it was doing. And it was just stuck there for a long, long time. Now, I haven't slowed this down. This is as it was. And it did this twice. Once on the initial opening, and then once when I tried to open a templated project. Then when the project was open, I decided to go, okay, well, let's play it. Seemed to play okay. Character would move around. Everything rendered quite nicely. Then I thought, great, let me edit something and try again. So I did. And this is what it did. I had this flickering, and that is not really that helpful. It was actually quite painful. So given that I'm going to be doing this in non-work time, I haven't got 40 minutes for it to just try and load Unreal, which pretty much rules it out as an engine that I can realistically use. Unless I spend probably nearer £3,000. So what's that, about maybe 3.5 to 4,000 US dollars? That's the only way I'm going to be able to use Unreal realistically. I'm not discounting how valuable that it can be to people who want to make video games. So if you haven't got one of these super powerful PCs with probably 32 or 64 gig of RAM to run Unreal and a great graphics card to support that, I'd probably avoid using Unreal Engine 5. Go for something lighter. And that's been my big learning here, is that if I want to make something super powerful and super impressive, the costs are also going to be pretty super. I'm not saying it's not a brilliant engine and it can't do amazing things. I'm saying it doesn't really do 2D and it's far too powerful for what I need right now, and I can't run the damn thing. So maybe it's going to go on the shelf. So that means now I have to go and make a decision. And if you haven't worked it out already, Unreal 5 ain't making the cut. It's just not practical. Why would I use something that's going to cost me more money? I'm just learning. I'm just playing with something. I want to explore and tell stories, but do I really want to spend all that money on a machine just for this? Right now, probably not. I don't know where this is going to take me, so maybe I should play it safer with one of the other engines. Yeah, I think we can safely say that Unreal is the one which has some unreal expectations of the user. And in this case, this user doesn't have the spec nor the patience to wait for it to load on my old Mac. I say old Mac, it's a 2022 Mac. It's not even that old. So that's it. That's it. It's over for Unreal. So now I have to go and pick a different engine, which is going to be the topic of my next video. So if you like this video, hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it. It'd be really nice of you. If you want to come and see what engine I'm going to pick and see what I can do with the engine that I do go with and what stories I can tell going forward, hit the subscribe button. It'd be great to have you along with the journey. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.